All right, welcome to the party, pals. Thank you for everybody hopping in. I already see like B-Dubs and Snack Panic, Brenda popping into the chat. Welcome, everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the introduction. Today is our open discussions, general conversation, and so forth. So the first 2 weeks of every single month, we have talks for our Thursday meeting, and then the middle of the month, so that typically that third week is going to be our open discussions. And the fourth Thursday, the last Thursday of every month, is going to be our job readiness and group resume review video. And so today is going to be a lot more casual. If you guys have particular topics or questions or anything like that that you guys want to go over, today is definitely the day to go through that. So we're just all here for a shared mission to break down barriers, foster collaboration and community, especially within the GRC space, and working towards that more secure future for everybody, especially with all those breaches and so forth, and how difficult it is to find information and cross collaboration. Breaking down those barriers is like those communication barriers that we often find. And we're all just here for that learn and growing mindset. And then, like I was just talking a little bit about our Thursday schedule. So Thursdays at 6 p.m. Central, which is tonight's, that first two speakers of the month. And then we'll have the job readiness and group resume review the last Thursday of every month. Now, Monday and Tuesday, we're doing the hands-on GRC labs. Lately, we've been doing the risk register. Starting this next month, I'm going to be getting those videos published out over the weekend. And we'll be starting with things like a business impact assessment, asset inventory, vendors list, and so forth, and those types of things as well. Now, on Wednesdays, we have the GRC Let's Get Technical. We started with like why you should even be technical or worry about that in GRC. And then we did basic computer components. And then this last Wednesday, we talked about like a fundamentals on networking. So we have more of that stuff coming up as well, and definitely looking for feedback and what you guys want to see coming up as well, not only regarding the hands-on, but then also the rest of our streams as well. Like the GRC Let's Get Technical, our Thursday streams. And then also Fridays, we have a 1 hour AMA at 11 a.m. Central. So, which is just a 1 hour. So tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central time, noon Eastern, we'll go through and just meet up for an hour, socialize, network, ask questions. If I don't know something, I'm sure I know somebody who does know the answer to it, more than likely, especially within the GRC and cybersecurity space. Now, I'm going to go ahead and drop the link for the open stage here in just a moment. Like I said, this is more of a casual meetup and so forth, just the open discussions. So feel free to come up on stage. You do not have to turn on your video if you don't want to. 100% ask questions, even if it doesn't pertain to what we're talking about at that time. We could always come back around to that. If you would like to drop your social media personal profiles in, the best place to do that is inside of our Discord server. So you can join our Discord server, and then we have a live chat where everything gets relayed to. So if you drop something in there, then you can go through and it'll be relayed to the rest of the media platforms that we're streaming to, such as your personal LinkedIn profile. Now, share useful resources, bring up other topics and so forth. If you do share something that you don't want to be public, just reach out to me, send me a message on LinkedIn or Discord, or otherwise, you can also contact me at contact@studygrc.org so we can try to figure out how we can get that redacted or otherwise. Now, studygrc.org is going to be our website address. So we have all of our other platforms that we're streaming to, such as Twitch, X, LinkedIn, that you can also check out if you prefer to watch on one of those platforms. Like Twitch is actually kind of nice because it has almost zero delay. And then we also have our resources page and also our calendar. And so the calendar is the best way to keep up to date on what's coming up, especially with us scheduling out 2 or 3 weeks at a time. That could be really difficult to see on the YouTube end of it on the scheduled videos. So checking out that calendar could be really useful. And we're going to get next month booked out this weekend. Also, you can go ahead and check out like Simply Cyber is awesome. We also have B-Dubs' blog as well. And then, of course, we have the local 853 SME PBO, who also has his YouTube channel where he goes live every single Tuesday. And like B-Dubs for the BritWhite.io, she's going through and publishing like GRC, cybersecurity related articles every single Monday. And then without further ado, let me go ahead and, oh, why did it? I don't know why that's okay. That's fine. We'll figure it out. Let me transition back real quick. At least for me, it's not showing my video feed up on the screen, so I don't know what's going on there, but that's all right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and drop this link for the stage. So open stage. Now, also to get the party started here, I see some of you guys are already grabbing that badge. So B-Dubs already gave you guys a heads up in chat. But so if you would like to, you can go into our Discord server and you can go ahead and collect the weekly GRC Mafia badge. And so you get a special little badge inside of our Discord server. And I'll actually pull up an example here in just a moment. Let's see here. Maybe. There we go. All right. So it's one of these pages here. Bam. And so if you look at this, you can see that Davey Crack IT went through and he did GRC Mafia in capital letters with a space in between. You'll receive a check mark on your message from the bot if it is successful. And then what happens is then you get that GRC Mafia badge next to your name for the next week. And so that is our weekly check-in, which is only available for our Thursday streams itself. So I highly recommend to go grab that. It's definitely a little bit of clout there. And then maybe in the future, we'll add a few different interesting features to that. So like B-Dubs is asking, Cybercycle, do you play Fortnite? And Cybercycle is refusing to answer. I feel like that is a governmental, I can neither confirm nor deny that request.
I mean, I need an answer.
Wow, that sounds a little demanding.
It is demanding.
GRC Mafia. But yeah, what are you guys working on? What have you guys been studying and so forth? So the badges is inside of the live chat. So you just drop GRC Mafia in capital letters with a space in between inside of the live chat on Discord. And I can actually @ you over there, Cybercycle. Although, I guess if you don't, yeah, so like Cybercycle stating that it is confidential. And so, yeah, we'll see how that works out. That's a little suspicious. I'm just saying. I think that's a little sus when you're that defensive about Fortnite.
Badge swag.
And also, like, this is a perfect time to go through and let y'all know. So before you guys start dropping off or otherwise, definitely let us know what you guys are working on. Give us some topics and so forth. Do you guys have any questions? However, we do have one exciting thing. Let me know if that music is a little too loud or otherwise for you guys. I'm going to try to turn that down a little bit more. But one of the really exciting things that we do have coming up is we will be launching, or at least B-Dubs will be launching, a CISSP study group. That will be live streamed on YouTube. Do you have your YouTube link that you want to drop for that?
I can go grab it.
Yeah, so B-Dubs will be dropping that in chat here in a moment. And so I recommend subscribing to that YouTube channel. We will be setting up everything inside of our Discord. If you go over to our info and links channel inside of our Discord server, you can go ahead at the very bottom. It says CISSP study group, and you can go ahead and turn on notifications for that. And so that is going to be, give or take, 14 weeks is what we're planning on, where B-Dubs is going to go through twice a week on Tuesdays and on Sundays. We will release more information probably over the weekend to let everybody know more information about that. But we are looking at launching that the first week of March. So definitely something to look forward to. And one of the big things, did you want to premise that for like the people with the newcomers and so forth, or comment?
So I'll just say I personally am not planning to take the exam. There's just a lot of people that I've seen interested in a study group and nobody to actually step up and lead a study group. So happy to take charge and do that. But as far as if you're new to the industry, I don't recommend going and getting your CISSP. However, the knowledge that we will be sharing and talking about, I think you might find a lot of value in that without actually studying for the CISSP. So anybody's more than welcome to join, whether you're actually studying for the exam or not. So
yeah. Well, and so, yeah, some of the premising on that too is, yeah, so I think anybody who has the time available, one of the big benefits is it will be live streamed, so you can always catch the videos after the fact. But if you do catch it live, then you'll be able to ask questions, get answers, and just also improve it for everybody all together. And so that's a really big thing. Like I said, we're going to do the social media posting and all of the actual details and fine tuning over this weekend. And you guys will definitely get notified for that. But certainly hop into the Discord server and head over to that info and links section to get notified for the rule itself, at least. So B-Dubs did just drop the, yeah, B-Dubs did drop the YouTube channel there that will be used.
And then also don't forget there is a role in the server under, what is it? Yeah, info and links in the Discord server. And you can go grab a role for the study group if you want to be pinged. And that way we won't be annoyingly pinging people who aren't interested.
Exactly. And so that's some really awesome stuff that's coming out here shortly. We definitely want everybody's feedback and also other things for us to improve and add on as well. We did also receive like another piece of information too, some feedback that I think was awesome. That we'll probably start implementing on our Friday AMAs, where we can go ahead and start off with maybe 2 or 3 different news articles or otherwise for our Friday AMA. That helps us create some discussion points, maybe get some questions flowing and so forth, and then also just relays some of that news that not everybody may have noticed. Let's see here. So let's see. Well, and then also like McCoy also mentions that he's studying for the Sec Plus, and that's okay too, because also the biggest benefit is this is recorded, live streamed. And so it's going to be saved on a playlist. It's going to be available for a very long time. The CISSP usually gets updated every 3 years. So it just got updated, I believe, in April of 24. So, yep. And one of the other things to premise too is that you cannot obtain the certification without actually having 5 years of verifiable work experience. However, you could also study certifications for the knowledge itself, which is why that's so useful. Like, I'm going to be participating just because I want to learn the topics. I want to get that knowledge and so forth. If I missed anything in chat, definitely go feel free to say it again and so forth. There were a couple other things here that I wanted to mention as well. And I'm going to drop this stage link if anybody else wanted to come up. One of the other things I wanted to shout out real quick before we move on to one of these other questions is, so like Davey mentioned the GRC swag bag or swag. I don't know why I said swag bag.
Badge swag.
We should have swag bags. That's what we should have.
Yeah.
I don't know if this command's going to work off the bat, but we also do have a merch shop that I'm going to go ahead and open up real quick. Now, I really want to premise everything because I'm absolutely horrible at selling myself and study GRC and so forth. However, this is for community. And so 100% of our proceeds go towards back into the community itself and so forth. So we do make some money off of this, and I don't want anybody to feel obligated to purchase anything. But for the community, we did add some additional items on here as well, such as a hat, some hoodies, and then also a nicer t-shirt here as well. And so if there's anything in particular you guys want, check that out. Let me know if there's other products you want to see on there as well, and we could see about getting that added. We do try to keep the prices as low as possible. So most of this has like a 10% markup, which just goes in like as a donation itself. And if you guys have additional questions or otherwise, it's absolutely full transparency. So I just want to, premise all of that fact. It's the same thing with the donation link. Like that's set up on an auto recurring thing in the chat because I'm absolutely horrible at throwing that kind of information out. Oh, there we go. Let's do this. There we go. Now we're on screen. And then there were a couple other questions that I wanted to address as well real quick. Let me just modify this a little bit. And did that even drop in chat properly? I'm pretty sure.
It did not.
Okay, so this also leads me to another question here. So if you could mark anything else that comes up, but I'll go ahead and pull that down. And then Cybersecurity was wondering about this here. And so I'm gonna go ahead and drop this. And so I would say 98% of our commands are open to everybody. Now I'm dropping this into live chat right now, and you'll see this on the YouTube side, but this is a moderator only one. I recommend bookmarking this link that's in chat. And so this is a public link that will show you all of the different commands that we have available. You could use these commands in Discord, and you can use these on YouTube as well. So YouTube or on Discord. And that shows you all the different commands you could do and what the output is. Now, there are some that say moderator and some for everyone. So unless you're a moderator, you're not going to be able to do the moderator ones, of course. And that's to help with some of the spam, but then also some of those links, like we don't want flowed out too much. One of the big things around with the links is it's really, really awesome. And let me actually pull this up on screen. That might be a little bit easier. But you could see this on my screen here, hopefully. Let me zoom in a little bit more. But you could see the whole list of commands at this link that was dropped in chat. And so like the like, you could do exclamation mark like or exclamation mark Luke to get Luke Cyber Research's LinkedIn and so forth, and all of these other ones. This is extremely useful, and we are always looking for community feedback on what else should we add on here for commands and so forth, because this is really useful in Discord. So we can make a command where it's like, oh, exclamation mark welcome, and it'll drop, a bunch of links or whatever else for, somebody just getting started. And we could utilize that to help with some of the repetitive questions or resources and things like that. Or if there's other commands you guys could find useful, just let us know. Let me see. Was there anything you wanted to add here or on the merch shop?
Not at the moment.
All right. I know I'm just like dropping a bunch of knowledge bombs here. CISSP, we got the more gear in the merch shop. We got the commands and so forth that everybody has access to. So let me know if you guys have any other questions and so forth. I do also see this here. So McCoy says, trying to plan out March schedule for my profile/LinkedIn for entry-level audit compliance roles. I want to put up 2 to 3 well-done projects. Any suggestions? Did you want to comment on that?
I think I wrote something on this.
That would not surprise me. I always recommend a risk register as the beginning because that really helps with the risk identification. We have a whole video that walks you through how to learn more about it. I think that's a really good one where you could just list out. You can come up with a mock company. Maybe you could base it off of a company you worked for before. And, like when I was in welding, for an example, I could go through and I could do a risk register. What are some of the different risks in that job or role or otherwise, or that department? And just list out 10 or 15 different ones, fill out the risk register to show that I can identify risk and rate it on that likelihood and impact, and provide like recommended mitigations.
So I just dropped the link for the blog article I wrote about that. Basically, it's kind of a high-level view of some different ideas and thinking outside the box and where you can get some of those GRC skills. So maybe it's helpful.
Oh, I'm sure it is helpful. Why?
Try.
Yeah, and so now we got this up on the big screen. So GRC skills, create your own opportunity. No job, no problem. Learn creative, actionable ways to gain GRC experience, build your skills, and break into the field. Yeah, that is directly addressing that question there, so that's perfect. And unfortunately, these older articles do not have videos, but even the newer ones now, so you can come over to britwhite.io and you could subscribe if you would like to get the emails for it. And now B-Dubs is also making videos to go with, to read out the articles as well, where she actually goes through and reads it to you.
Yeah, and I might even, maybe, go back and record videos for some of the old ones eventually.
Yeah, and it's like britwhite.io is like the biggest cash grab possible because it has no paywalls, nothing required to pay. You get full access to everything for $0.
My own personal boot camp.
Yes, for $0. It's I think the only other worse model might be like how much Anti-Siphon and Black Hills does for the community. That might be the only other worse business model because they're in the negatives.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Cybercycle.
Cybercycle's really, over here getting some brownie points.
Yeah. I really like the aesthetic themes of your blog.
What do you mean? So you could do a risk register that does not include sensitive information. So you could take, like for an example, if I were to do like the company I was a welder at, for an example, I would just go through and list out the different types of risk without sensitive information. I would change the company name, but just because I was in that role, I could identify different areas of risk and so forth that should be addressed.
Another option is to do a risk register and start a risk assessment on your home network. It doesn't have to be lengthy, but it's a way to practice those skills.
Exactly. And so you could do the risk register without sensitive information. You could do like a mock company. You could even do like a juice shop. Like you could just make up a fictitious business and be like, oh, I'm going to build a risk register about a juice shop. Okay, well, they have blenders. They have a couple employees. Slip and fall is a risk. What happens if somebody slams the door and the glass breaks and somebody gets cut? Then you could just start going down the list and be like, okay, well, what kinds of risk are inside of a juice shop? And you could build a risk register all on that. It's just to outline that you could identify risk, and then you could also apply the likelihood and impact and explain how you get to those numbers. So that's the key thing. And that's why I recommend that so much as a first project, because it showcases so well your actual ability and skill to be able to do that, which is extremely vital in the industry.
100%.
I'm just going back through chat to make sure I didn't miss anything here. How's everybody doing? Having a strong week? We're almost done. One more day.
It's Friday Eve,
Could people, I'm going to start a petition to just make that like against the law or something. Come on. Friday Eve? Oh. Like, could you at least say the eve of Friday so I'm not reading chat and it says I read Friday before I read Eve? This morning, somebody dropped in Discord Friday Eve, and like I was still drinking my coffee, and I'm like, Friday, oh snap, like I'm behind.
My favorite is Saturday Eve, though. It's better than Friday Eve.
Yeah, I was drinking my coffee, and I went from Wednesday to Friday for about 10 seconds. Yeah, and let me drop this stage link again too. So if anybody has any topics, if you guys want to talk about anything in particular or learn more, or otherwise, definitely go ahead and drop that. Otherwise, I could just go ahead and start pulling up maybe some of my cat photos, or
Ooh, cat
we could
photo.
figure something out.
In the middle of doing a SOC audit and excited for Friday. I bet you are excited for end of day Friday. That's for sure. SOC audits are a blast.
Yeah, and also like McCoy mentions, no weekends in healthcare. Yeah.
No weekends in healthcare.
Yeah, my understanding is you're working some pretty crazy hours there.
Surely you have a weekend somewhere, even if it's like in the middle of the week.
At
Hopefully.
some point.
A break of some kind.
Right?
Nobody says the weekend has to be Saturday, Sunday. It could be whenever you want.
Oh yeah, and when I talked about the merch shop portion, I showed you guys it, but the command never actually worked. I don't remember what command I used for it, so what I set it to.
Apostrophe merch is what you put in chat earlier.
Yeah, but I didn't actually send it. I don't even know if I have it on here yet. We haven't really promoted the merch shop. We've had it for a couple months now, but we never really had many of the items on there. So I'm just going to manually drop it in chat here if you guys wanted to look at that at all. But so that's one of the commands I have to add. And then you guys can always go to this commands list here to publicly view the available commands.
Do we want to go over incident response procedures?
I mean, we certainly could.
Yeah. They did ask if we want to.
How polite.
Yeah.
I mean, it's GRC. I mean, NIST has a few documents on incident response. I love
maybe
NIST.
one or two.
Is there anybody else who actually gets excited just going to the NIST glossary? Like, I don't know. Like Jerry, I know Jerry has a very awkward fascination with some of the NIST docs, but you know, that's the docs themselves, not the website, not the entire thing there. Was there a particular area that you wanted to focus on for incident response? We also have several hundred questions we could, like quiz questions we can go through today as well.
$500 Pocket Prep Security Plus questions in the past 2 weeks, McCoy.
I honestly hate practice questions. Yeah. That's like my least favorite part about studying is going through any practice tests.
Yeah.
I hate that part. It's so boring.
How much and how has going through SOC audits changed with the addition of AI tools to help gather artifacts? I don't have any experience with that in particular.
Yeah, I think that's still something that is like in development and trials and so forth. So that's definitely been implemented and it's definitely in some of the tooling that we have already. But there's still a lot of companies that are not allowing that type of stuff yet. We're just now seeing these additional companies and more companies pop up for AI tools inside of SOC. And so like inside of the Simply Cyber Discord, there was a slight chat there where somebody had shared like a sales link or a sales email that they received from one of these companies selling them like a SOC level 1 replacement using AI. And I dropped a couple links for 2 different companies that provide AI SOC analysts, where it just analyzes your logs, it notifies, and it can even take automatic responses to that. So like for an example, if it recognizes that there's a DDoS attack, it could auto block that IP address for an example. I think that's a really interesting technology and so forth. And I could see, if it's not already done, with them also implementing GRC into that exact same AI as well. So then at the same time, then it's also listing out and identifying those areas of risk as well to expedite risk register, audits, and so forth. Looking at system settings and everything else.
And then CCM continuous controls monitoring tooling as well, in addition to that previous question.
are you want to talk more about CCM? I have not even worked with CCM before, so if you would like to come up on stage and share your experience with it or otherwise, or we could just like start doing some live research and dig more into it. I've heard of it before, but I've never used it.
Research sounds fun. And Fredon says we can use the NIST incident response lifecycle.
Oh yeah, I already have it up. 861.
Of course you do.
Yes. They have a diagram. I love NIST.
Feels like AI is still a security issue, right? I think there's a lot of things that are security issues. AI is definitely one of them.
Yeah, and so that's one of the big things is that we're still in this stage with AI where there's a black box that nobody can explain. And from a GRC perspective, that's a concern. And so like for an example, an AI that doesn't train on your data, how do you prove it doesn't train on your data? How do you prove on what it does and doesn't do without actual testing and long-term and so forth? Like it goes literally, it goes into a black box. Most people, like only a few people really know how it works. And then it comes out and spits out its output. And so but in between is the concerning part. And then it has access to the internet. It has access to all of these different features and so forth. So then, and then we also have error as well. So with most of the AI models that I personally use, even if you turn the temperature down, which is like how spicy or creative it can be, even if you turn that down to 0, you can even technically go into the negatives for that. And you still get incorrect and invalid responses. And so that's where like with an AI SOC analyst, for an example, you could get an abundance of, or even some of the false positives where it says that there's a problem, but it's not really an issue, which then could actually develop more work for your real human beings and not actually be an assistant and more of a burden. So I think it's still going to be a few years. I think it's interesting technology that's going to be a really useful tool, but we're still several years away from getting that weeded out and making it more socially accessible and figuring out how we could leverage these tools in our actual environments. I think that's what it really actually comes down to.
Yeah. So on that CCM, the what was that acronym? Continuous Controls Monitoring.
Correct.
McCoy says, I've never heard of it, so I'm down for some live research. And
yeah, and we can.
Yeah, Josh says research would be cool. I've not used any products using CCM specifically.
Yeah, I've come across it inside of some of the NIST documentation and so forth. But yeah, we can go through like the incident response and so forth lifecycle, which I have one of the diagrams up here, and then we could also like start researching into that CCM as well. So those are a couple different interesting topics there. Underperforming on practice tests. Yeah, like when I did the Sec Plus, for an example, I only actually took 2 practice tests. One was like halfway through and I didn't feel comfortable. And then the last one was like just a few days beforehand. I also I know a lot of people who will go through and like, I know people who have passed the Sec Plus who all they didn't really study the Sec Plus. They just went through practice exams. So I could not do that. And also I don't feel like that's an actual learning educational thing. But, so I really try to limit practice tests at all. I try to get that in order to, it's kind of like a gap analysis where you're trying to figure out where you're at and where you want to be is how I use practice tests.
Yeah, that's a great way to use them.
Cybercycle says AI isn't Alexa for docs or discovery.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that.
I mean, I talk to my AI all the time. I call it robot.
Well, and I really personally believe that DeepSeek is just overhyped. The reason I say that is because whether you look at DeepSeek being from China or you look at OpenAI, how do we know OpenAI is secure? We don't. We just take their word for it.
Right.
Like, sure, they have audits and so forth, but so does DeepSeek. So do these other companies and so forth. and you're just taking one person's word on that. So, oh, OpenAI paid this firm, $5 million to do an audit, and they say it's good to go. Okay, well, hopefully we could trust them. Unless you actually have people who are well enough trained to actually look at the source code, literally like reverse engineer it and tear it apart and everything else and whatnot, like that stuff never happens. And so I don't really trust any of the AI. And sure, like in the United States, we look at China as like a competitor, and that's one of the big issues. And that's why like GPUs were restricted and all of that kind of stuff. However, like, it's just like Elon has been mentioned noting on like saying something along the lines of like how he doesn't really do patents and so forth, because that's what really keeps the industry growing. And so like, because of what DeepSeek's doing, OpenAI is probably freaking out and they're trying to do even better now. So that's what pushes the market further, is by competition. And so like, sure, there probably is a security issue with that, but I'm not going to be putting sensitive information to OpenAI either. So, and that's like one of my issues with deploying AI into like a SOC, for an example, for like a SOC level 1, is like, I personally would not recommend connecting an AI that we don't know how it works into all of our systems and logs in one area. So yeah, I think it's way deeper than just DeepSeek. That's my hot take.
That was a pretty hot take. Spicy.
Yeah, I'm gonna clip that and hope that goes viral. Let's see. Yeah, here in a moment we could go ahead and start going through some of this stuff. I was just catching up on the chat here. Oh yeah, and then also like Cybersecurity, I think, is mentioning in regards to like DeepSeek, tracking your IP, your login creds, and other valuable metadata and stuff like that. That is true. But also the exact same thing is true for OpenAI. And so that's where I feel like there is a unfair amount of like media attention on DeepSeek, is because these other companies do that too. When you go to studygrc.org, our website is hosted through Cloudflare. Cloudflare does save your IP address. It saves what metadata is sent in that transaction. Most websites on the internet do that already.
Almost all of them, probably.
Yeah, and so like that's where I feel like some of that is just like, maybe they are saving that for malicious purposes, but how are we supposed to say otherwise with these other companies too, especially with all our data breaches? Our medical, like I was just reading an article that there was like 1.2 million medical records that were compromised in a breach because somebody signed into the wrong portal on a phishing email. I'm way more concerned about that than I am my IP address in China. So, yeah. Priorities. What's going on, Luke Canfield? Welcome to the party, pal. I'm going to drop the stage link one more time, and then it looks like we'll go ahead and start dropping into like this studying and so forth. And so
we got Luke J here too.
Oh, Cyber Research is in here.
Team Luke.
Yeah, and at least Cyber Research has a custom command for his LinkedIn, so go bother him. He's got a lot of knowledge, especially on that blue team side. So definitely connect with him on LinkedIn and then just send all your questions to him. Is that the wrong profile? You're joking, right?
Apparently he has more than one.
Cyber Research is kind of sketchy. He's got like 6 identities.
The other one was called Luke J. So
yeah,
not very anonymous.
That's if it's his real name.
You never know.
Now let me go ahead and get this pulled up over here. And so I just wanted to show you guys as well. Like I've showed this before. And so one of the best things that I do is I go over to the NIST glossary when I'm trying to find something, and then I just search for the term. It gives me the results, and then it tells me like, oh, incident handling is over here in 861 revision 2. It's also in 61 revision 2 under incident handling. And then also there's this document from 2015 as well. So if you're looking for a particular term, I find this to work really well when you're looking for something in particular. And so that led me over to this document here, which I'll go back up to the top real quick, but page 34. So hopefully everybody remembers page 34, but
34.
Yeah, so 861, which is Computer Security Incident Handling Guide. Now, PBO always gives us trouble about when these were published. So now let's go ahead and scroll down and see how old this is. It looks like we're looking at August of 2012.
Wow.
Yep, so this is one of the older documents. I have seen some other ones of NIST docs that are still considered valid that are over 20 years. But like one of the different defenses I have for that is these concepts do not really age. Like the industry does evolve really rapidly, but the concepts, the core concepts themselves don't really. And then also NIST is a voluntary process for most. And so this is largely for reference. Like we talked about the 850 for learning and for developing learning and privacy programs. That's a reference. That's for you to like just get their take, their recommendations and so forth, and then deploy that. So you pick and choose what you want. They're not saying like, oh, this is how you do it. But so then I went down and then I was just looking at like, incident response. So incident handling an incident. So preparation, detection and analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, post-incident recovery or activity. And so we're looking at page 21 to start the incident handling process. So 21 to 42, technically 41. And so if we just skip down here to incident handling, then we see the incident response lifecycle here, which is what we were just talking about a second ago. And so we start with preparations, detection and analysis, containment, eradication and recovery, and then post activity. And you could also see here, these arrows are really important too, because you could do detection and analysis, go into containment, eradication and recovery, and then go back to detection and analysis as well. It depends on the incident.
Yeah, it's not linear at all.
Yeah. And hopefully with any luck, after you go through that a few times, then you get to post-incident activity, and then you go back to preparation if everything works out as planned. So I think this is also a very simplistic way of looking at it. This is a very high level view. So, but it gives you a good idea. And let me drop the link to this too, so you guys can look at this document directly. And if you guys have any questions or anything else, even if it doesn't pertain, we can always wrap back around to that as well. Like Luke did also mention regarding that DeepSeek conversation, that DeepSeek is just trying to get IP dumped in and dupes like the idiots at a defense contractor. That might have been Boeing did with ChatGPT. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's one reason why like I'm not worried about DeepSeek. Like I'm not going to download the app on my phone, but also I'm not going to be like freaking out about it on the App Store per se. But also the other thing we also have to take into consideration is like the average everyday user. Does everybody realize you don't want to be putting sensitive data into AI? I think that's more on the public education aspect we need to be worried about. Page 54, very nice try, Cyber Research. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so C. Allen, I can go ahead and pull that up again. So C. Allen was just asking how I narrowed down the search results for the NIST publications and so forth. So NIST has their search here, and so you could search their gallery, their glossary. I call it, I should start calling their glossary a gallery because I just love it so much. But I'm dropping the link to it right now, so you can go to the NIST page for their glossary. You just search for a term. They have some different filters you can use. And so you could search for incident handling. You could search for CCM. You could search for any term that you want, and then it will list out what documents that is actually comes up in. And sometimes they'll even tell you what page numbers to look in. And so then I'll go, like from here, I went to 861. I pulled up the PDF document for it, and then I just looked at the index to see where incident handling was for the process itself. And so whenever I'm trying to research something and I want to learn more about something at this point, I just go to the glossary. I'm like, oh, I want to learn more about company culture. And then it lists out all of the NIST docs that relate to it. And so it's a really, really good search tool. I've shown it before, and I highly recommend to use the NIST glossary. And oftentimes you'll see the same term in multiple documents. Like if you search for supply chain or something, you'll get multiple different options to look in. Yeah, and then also like McCoy does mention that also people don't care about their data in the US. I think that's a misconception. There was another report just recently I posted in Discord because year over year, it's increasing by like an additional 34% of people who are doing more redactions to their data and requesting companies to remove their data and so forth. And so it is increasing. And I would say like just out of like my non-technical group of friends and so forth and family, because I really don't try to push my stuff on other people and so forth, like in my personal life and so forth, like to each their own. You know, like when my wife installed, you know, Temu or whatever the hell, I was like, you realize that that's like not the best thing to be ordering stuff on, but you know,
Temu is the best thing to be ordering stuff on.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Order everything on Temu.
No.
It's cheap.
Yeah, and I could go into a deeper conversation on it. Yeah, she like came across something, she downloaded the app. It's like spend $45 and you get like $50 worth of stuff for free. And I'm like, okay, but it's not really free. Like
that is.
Yeah, but yeah.
I'm
Anyways,
kidding.
My point being is it is increasing. There are more and more people taking it more serious, and it just takes more people being more knowledgeable about it, sharing their information, and just educating the general public, I think is where it really comes down, because most people don't realize that. Like, did you guys realize that most most ISPs, they keep track of your traffic? So your DNS automatically defaults to your ISP for your internet provider, and then they keep track of all of the different websites and stuff that you do on the internet based on your DNS traffic, and then they sell that to marketers and data brokers and so forth. That is common practice in the US. That's one of the main reasons why I set up a Pi-hole, is to have my own DNS server. And I also use like Cloudflares as well and so forth, using different technologies. What is that called? DHS, I think, or something like that, for the DNS.
DHC.
Yeah, so when you send it over, yeah, so you could send over a DNS request for like over TCP or an HTTPS, so it's more private or secure. And so like that little tiny fact there, most people don't know anything about it. They've never heard about it. And so I think it really comes down to educating the public, because that's also a really easy fix, where you just change your default over to Cloudflare for your router or something. DOH, that's what it is. Cyber Research is on top of it.
DOH.
Yeah, DOH. There we go. That's what I was trying to recall.
It's too many acronyms.
Yeah, and also there's a love-hate relationship here too. Like now we're kind of going a little off topic, but that's fine. Good conversations. Because like my concern is like VPNs getting more popular is okay, but also what VPNs are getting popular is another concern. So yeah. Because I'm sure, I'm not going to name names on live stream, but I'm sure we've all seen those advertisements before. And I will say that my trustworthy ones is ProtonVPN. I personally use Proton, which is really good for streaming, especially in high speed. They also have Secure Core, which is awesome. And then I'm also a massive fan of Mullvad. Mullvad is a little bit slower, but I actually prefer Mullvad for more secure operations. So anything that's sensitive or otherwise, that I actually am ideally going for more anonymous, I trust myself with Molvad. That's that company that got famous because they actually got raided, and everything was stored on RAM and so forth and was unrecoverable. So even when they got raided, they were unable to recover any of the data. So yeah, and it's literally $5 a month, and you get like, I don't remember how many devices you get, but those are the only two that I trust. So, and outside of live streaming, like I actually have to do a little loop, a bypass when I live stream, because my entire network, I actually have the VPN on the router itself. So yeah, use VPN all the time. What about you, B-dubs? Do you use it? Tripwire. Oh God. I've not, I
use VPN all the time.
Yeah, you say that very, very confidently.
I am very confident. I use VPN all the time. 100%.
Well, and that's what I love about ProtonVPN, is that they have the high speed ones that work really well with streaming services. And so like, I don't really notice an issue. The only issue I notice, like on my mobile device, for an example, is shortly after I disconnect from Wi-Fi, it does have to reconnect to that VPN. And so you do have a slight delay there in getting a connection again. But outside of that, I haven't noticed anything. And so that's one reason why I recommend that. So I did look at Tripwire before.
So
on Linux at least.
Is that why your searches are so slow?
My searches are so slow. I use Brave.
I don't feel like your searches are slow, but I don't know. Are they? Are your searches slow?
I don't feel so.
Guess it's time to upgrade that internet.
I mean, more excuses for that 2.5 gig. Which reminds me, anybody who's really strong on that networking and so forth, let me know, because like I have to figure out how the hell to utilize a 2.5 gig fiber connection. And that's going to be increasing to a 10 gig. So I need to figure out hardware for that. But yeah, that's beside the fact. That's just, yeah, out in rural North Dakota.
I don't even know how you have speeds that fast where you are.
Straight fiber. My internet provider sent me an email and said that there was 2.5 available, and I was like, wow, that's way unnecessary, but boy, that clout. As is, I already have strong connection speeds of 1 gig. Usually it ranges in the 900s, which is better than most people in the cities and so forth, of course. But then the fact that they're increasing their hardware to be able to provide 10 gigabyte connection speeds, and I'm in rural North Dakota. I'm over an hour and a half away from a major city, and everything else in between here and there is like less than 500 people. So, yeah, it's actually pretty crazy. You missed everything,
all
cyber
of it.
Cybersecurity.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, so Cybercycle. So you mentioned Tripwire. So I did play around with Tripwire like years ago. And so if I remember correctly, basically what it does is it's kind of like a canary token to an extent, isn't it? So like you could have it set up to where it will lock out or encrypt the system out, almost like a ransomware, when it notices a particular file get compromised or an action occurring. That was my thought, if I'm recalling correctly. And that's also where the whole Tripwire portion comes in. Yeah, so you could actually, it may be a different tool, but there's also another Linux tool that's out there where you could like self-ransomware yourself, in where if your system gets compromised, like a particular user gets logged into or a certain file gets accessed, then it will actually permanently encrypt your system. So there are different tools out there like that, which is kind of scary. But yeah.
So Cyber gangsters missed us discussing the answer to all the problems in the universe. Faster internet. That's what you
Yeah.
missed.
Yeah, and then also like Josh also mentions Proton. I don't think I even heard about them moving over to nonprofit. I will admit that like I like the service and so forth, but I do still have a love-hate relationship with them. I have used Proton off and on pretty regularly since almost their inception, because I think they started up in like 2016 or something. They're relatively new, actually. It was like 2014 or 2016. And they were only like a year or two old when I first started using them. And like if you just look at their services, some of the different stuff that you'll see is that they have like slow development. They have a lot of basic things that are still not implemented. You know, they're like 10 years old now. And they also are worth a lot of money. Even though they don't have outside investment, they've done a very good job at creating their user base, which I think is great. But some people will criticize them for not investing properly and not having a faster development cycle and not, you know, implementing things that you would think would be capable. You know, like calendar. Like I would love to use Proton Calendar for my primary calendar, but I can't because I can't have a booking link put on there without plugins and browser extensions and things like that. Like that's something that you should be able to roll out as a big company relatively quickly, like within a few months at least.
Yeah, I really wish their calendar was better. I wish I could use everything that they had all in one spot, but I can't use their calendar.
Yeah. And so like that's one of the different areas, but then also just their slow development. But then also I really, really don't like the fact that it's cheaper for you to just buy everything than service by service. Like if I only want to use email, you can get that for like $1.99 or something for the lowest plan. But like if you want unlimited email, you have to go with all of their services. And I hate that. I really hate the all-in-one kind of product because like, oh, the only services I use is email, their Drive, and their VPN. So 3 out of like 7 of their services do I use, yet I'm paying for all of them.
So while I agree with that, I feel like their prices are low enough that if they did separate it out and you pay for what you use, it would be higher priced to get it all.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but
I think the reason that they do it is just because it's easier to combine them all together than to
probably
siphon them out. Because then they would have to figure out like, oh, is this product making enough?
Yeah.
So.
Because I would like to only pay for what I'm using. I don't use them all, but I feel like, you know, once you get 3 or 4 more services, it's going to be more expensive than what it is now.
Yeah. Well, and also like, even if you do look at the pricing, I think like their ultimate plan, I think it's like $10 for most of it. And then if you want like that increased storage, then it's like $15, which I think for most people is fine. Because really what I see is, I wish it was a direct replacement to Google, but it's really not. They don't have enough implemented to be a replacement to Google. So if it was, I would say, yeah, that's fair pricing, but it's really not. You're paying for that encryption. You're paying for that privacy. And so I wish that they did do a better job on the development and rollout, but I still like their services and I still use them.
And I think their cheapest plan is $4 a month. Because that's the one that I have, and I got it Black Friday or Cyber Monday or whatever. So it was 50% off, and that made it $2 a month.
Yeah.
So that's cheap.
Well, and they also do like a very similar thing to most companies too, because now we're like going down a rabbit hole here to an extent, but so like you could, oh no, I understand, but yeah, so like this is just for the email, which is like their most popular. And so you could see how it goes from, oh, you get the Mail Plus for $3.99, which is 15 gigs of storage and 1 user. One of the big things I don't like is like they only have 10 hide your email address. So 10 aliases allowed. Just because it's only 10 aliases is the only reason I don't go with that. So
yeah, that is kind of limited.
They purposely set up their plans to try to push you into that higher tier, which is definitely a sales tactic that's used everywhere. But it's just one of those things that a lot of people don't call out. And so even though I love their services and so forth, I just feel it's important to also highlight that it's not like it's a perfect alternative. So yeah, I still have to use Google, and I still pay Google money every month as well.
There's so many services I pay for. I wish I could get everything all in one. I would pay more money for it too, because it'd be cheaper than what I pay now on all the different stuff.
Well, then you should just go with Apple's ecosystem. Don't they have everything?
No, definitely not.
But why? Like,
Why?
legitimately, everybody, like, why? Why do these companies that have these billions and billions of dollars in revenue incapable of making an all-in-one service? Like,
Well, and I
I
think
think Apple of everybody would be the most capable to do that with more than 50% market share now.
Apple, I have iPhone and whatnot, but I don't have anything else Apple. But I believe they're like way behind on AI and all of that. Siri has AI, but it's way behind.
Yeah.
They're not up there with Google and all of it.
Yeah, and I think like the plan offerings is just, to make it easier for them and so forth. Like I said, I still use their services and so forth, but it's not a perfect thing. I think they also hedged a little on their logs availability, external audit, legal entities. Where they first started, they were more like Mulvad. Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%. And so that is something that I think a lot of people forget too, is that Proton originally started as a no log type of thing, which now they do have logs. Technically, they still will advertise like their VPN as a no log. But it's been proven because like there's been some high profile cases where Proton has disclosed people's information before, because they do have logs, particularly for their other services. Like the VPN supposedly is a no log, but like their email, their drive, a lot of this other stuff does still have some log to some ability. And there's also settings to configure even more logs.
So I'm dropping the stage link again if anyone wants to come join us up here.
Yeah, and then I'm going to go ahead and start jumping back into this incident handling thing. We could skim through this a little bit for some of the main points, and then we can go into that CCM. So we still have like another 57 minutes. A really quick recap, CISSP course coming out, where we're going to do a study group live streamed on YouTube. B-Dubs can drop the link to her YouTube channel where it will be live streaming the first week of March. So here in just a couple weeks. You can get more information about that this weekend when we start publishing out the details for it. But you can also join our Discord server and go over to the info and links channel, which will allow you to subscribe to the role for that CISSP study group. And then also our merch shop as well, which I no longer have the link for, but I will drop that again too, because we did add items on there as well. And always looking for feedback, whether it be our streams, you guys want to see more on the merch shop or otherwise too, because that's also like a community focused thing. And then I got this up here. And so we were talking about preparation, detection and analysis, containment, eradication, recovery, post-incident activity. And so then what we could do is we can go ahead and start going through these individual items here. And so it's just talking about these, how it has these different stages and so forth. And then it's going to go through and start breaking it all down. Now, it also, one of the things I really like about this is, so it's breaking down what types of things that you need to do. So contact information, you want to have like a contact list on who needs to be contacted for different areas or what happens. So like if this department is breached or this service has an issue or an incident, then who gets notified? Who's on that list? Like, do I just call my manager in the middle of the night, or is that a situation where I'm calling the CISO? Like, how is that handled? That's, I think, one thing that a lot of those like small and medium businesses have nothing for, but very important. There's also, you're going to mention here for law enforcement as well. On-call information, incident reporting mechanisms such as phone numbers, emails, online forms. Issue tracking systems to track the incident itself. There's systems that exist like just for incident response. So if your systems go down, you don't have to rely on your existing systems. There's a name for those as well. And then we'll just go through this. They also have the mention of a war room. So for central communication and coordination. So if a permanent war room is not necessary or practical, the team should create a procedure for procuring a temporary war room when needed. And so that's exactly what it sounds like, where you're going to have all of the information in there. And maybe you'll have a whiteboard, a PowerPoint, you know, a smart TV up on the wall kind of thing, to track and log everything along the process and have all of the information in that one room. So there's a lot of other information that pops in here. And then we do have somebody popping up. How's it going? Ramesh? Did you have a question or anything? All right, so I think you just have an open mic. So I'm just going to pull them off the stage. If they'd like, they could go ahead and rejoin again. But if you guys would like to join the stage, definitely feel free to do so. You're welcome to join the conversation, come up, ask questions. We could go into other topics as well. So I wanted to skip forward a little bit. You could see here, like it's talking about preventing incidents. There's a lot of information in here in just 79 pages, but I want to go back to this index here. So
just 79 pages? That's it?
Oh yeah. Most of the NIST docs are really not that long. It's really the 853 that gives NIST a bad name, I think. I hope PBO is in chat.
Yeah, where is PBO?
Yeah, like the 853 is like 1,100 pages or some crazy number. It's several hundred. It's a huge document, and I think that gives NIST a bad name. Most of the NIST docs are like 40 to 150 pages. So they're really nice day reads. So now we're back into the table of context here. So handling an incident, So we have the preparation, detection, analysis, containment. So we're going to go ahead and pop over to preparation here. And so you could see here where this is why I don't think NIST is that bad, because they are still putting it in, not 16 pages or a 2-hour video all about preparation, but incident response methodologies typically emphasize preparation, not only establishing an incident response capability so that the organization is ready to respond to incidences, but also preventing incidences by ensuring that systems, networks, and applications are sufficiently secure. And so this is the stage that we're almost always at. So this is, what would that be? Left of boom. So this is the prep work. This is securing the systems, preparing for that breach, because it's not when it's going to happen, but it's not if it's going to happen, it's when. And this is all the prep work and preparation stages. So getting your incident response plan together, like we were just talking about, getting a war room scheduled. What is the plan if this happens? Doing tabletops and all that kind of stuff, and trying to prevent. So prevention and preparation for when that does happen. And that's the gist of the preparation stage here. And then I'm going to go back all the way up here just to skip to the next section. And so then we have detection and analysis, which you could see like these sections are a little bit more thorough, but so like detection and analysis. So threat vectors. So threat vectors, incidences that, incidences can occur in countless ways. So it is feasible to develop step-by-step instructions for handling every incident. Infeasible. So there's, how many? There's, just look at the CVEs. Like there's so many different ways that you could get breached and attacked that there's no way to prep and prepare for all of it. But there's a lot of different techniques and tactics that are used, TTPs, that you can base a lot of that off of. So like one of the examples it looks like it gives down here is a DDoS attack. So that would be, like the OWASP top 10, or, going off of those common different ones that you could start preparing for when those do happen. And so that's what it states here, is focus on being prepared to handle incidences that use common attack vectors. And so that's a really good starting point. And then you could start developing a more mature program for incident response where it's not just common, but based on your environment, maybe a particular tool you use, or additional ways that maybe you have an external assessment, red team engagement, and they find something that's not so common, and now you could plan and mitigate that. If you guys, so threat vectors is a pretty foundational concept there, so that's definitely an important thing to go over. It mentions like web here, so an attack executed from a website or web-based application, an email attack, impersonation, improper usage, so any incident resulting from violation of organization's acceptable use policy or usage. External removable media, they put top and center. So an attacker that like plugs in a malicious USB drive, for an example, which like PPO will tell you that you should have all of your USB drives disabled, but that's not always feasible. What are you like promoting your boot camp or something?
Me?
Oh, PBO is in chat. Oh, I
PBO
wasn't looking
did
at
make
chat. Yeah, I wasn't looking in chat, so I just assumed I'd be coming back to you promoting your boot camp.
No, PBO made it, and Rhonda was having major malfunctions.
Ah, you gotta patch it.
Yeah, I was cracking up.
Yeah, and like Cybercycle mentions, left of boom reminds me of engine hoist.
I thought we were
And
getting
so
winning lotto numbers. Sorry. It was funny.
It's all good. Yeah, and if I remember correctly, so left of boom is before, right of boom is after the incident. Unless I'm mixing the two up. Yeah,
and I dropped that stage link again too, if anybody wants to join.
Yeah, and then also Cyber Gangster Cybersecurity got a position, so congratulations, coming in like a wrecking ball.
Yeah,
what type of role was it?
Where's that wrecking ball sound?
Right. Oh yeah, and Rhonda was saying 171, so 800 171, which is for protecting CUI and federal systems, if I recall offhand, is about 120 pages. So yeah, the NIST documents I think just get a bad name. I think that they put most of it pretty clearly, but because of things like the 53 that's so extensive and massive, all of this other value that NIST puts out gets a bad rap, even though they're not that bad at all. Like 171 is only 120 pages. A lot of their publications are well under 70 or 80 pages. And they contain a lot of information. And yeah, I wish we did get the winning lotto numbers there, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that would be nice. There's a lot of 1s and 7s, that's for sure.
You got to play to win.
I mean, 7 is pretty lucky, they say.
And so going through this detection and analysis stage of the incident response life cycle. So it's talking about the threat vector section. We're going to go ahead and scroll down to the next one. So signs of an incident. So for many organizations, the most challenging part of an incident response process is accurately detecting and assessing possible incidences. You'll see in the news, you'll hear it on the daily cyber threat briefing and so forth. Oh, they just found out about this data breach that happened 3 years ago. And everybody's like, oh, we have no idea how that happened. This is exactly where this comes in. So if you're not looking for it, and so that's where threat hunting could also potentially come into, from my understanding. Yeah, so if you're not actively looking for breach and compromise and so forth, then you probably won't find it unless something really wrong happens, like servers start going down, or you have crypto mining software put on all your workstations or something, or ransomware, if it's really obvious. But there's a lot of compromises that don't show like that, and so it may be more difficult to notice if you're not looking. And so it talks about incidences may be detected through various means. So that's where we're looking at like the network based. So IDPSs, Antivirus software, log analyzers. And so like log analyzers, it's really referencing like a SIM where it's aggregating all the logs from machines and systems into a central location for a SIM. And then you could set up filters to alert you on certain activities. But it could also be detected through manual means as well. So there's a lot of different ways. Problems could be reported by users, for an example, like, oh, hey, this is really weird. Like every time I go to check my email, like I'm just getting all these pop-ups on my screen. Like I'm not looking to sign up for, or, help somebody transfer crypto from Nigeria or something. So, but like I said, the unfortunate part is a lot of these incidences don't actually show themselves, obviously. So that's what this part's talking about, is just signs of an incident, looking for the problem. So
Cybercycle is pointing out that the CISSP content-wise, the value is the data lifecycle: create, store, use, share, archive, and destroy, as it relates to the incident lifecycle.
Yeah, and so that's probably an ISC2 thing or something, or that sounds familiar to like OWASP or something.
Yeah.
I run off of NIST, so NIST for life. Like everybody should convert over to NIST. We can take a look at that too and do a comparison. What would be really cool is if we do a mapping. So if ISC2 or whatever organization they're pulling that from, we can do a map over and see how that compares. Because I would imagine some type of diagram, kind of like the, what is it, TCP/IP, and what was the other one?
The OSI model.
And the OSI model side by side. That's how I would envision something like that between those two. So that's something that would be interesting to look into. That's a really good mention too, Cybercycle. That's one of the big things I'm excited about on going through that CISSP study group, is because it is pretty extensive. There's a lot of topics and so forth. And doing it in a study group fashion, I find it to be a little bit more effective. So yeah, as far as like commitment wise. And so again, coming back to this, so signs of an incident, checking for that incident. You don't know if you have an incident, a compromise, a breach, otherwise, unless you're looking for it in a lot of cases. And so then it gives some different examples here as well. So we don't have the time to go through and read word for word and so forth, but that's the gist of that section there. So then if we go down, then it's also talking about sources and precursor indicators. And so this is giving more examples, like SIM for an example. Security information and event management, SIM products, are similar to IDPS products, but they generate alerts based on analysis of log data. And so now it's giving a source and a description of these different options that you have. IDPS systems identify suspicious events and record pertinent data regarding them, including the date and time the attack was detected, the type of attack, source, and destination IP. Most IDPS products use attack signatures to identify malicious activity. And so that's kind of like with antivirus, it's running off of signatures to detect a lot of that. So IDPS software often produces false positives, which means that it's saying that there's a problem when there's really not a problem. So yeah, that could be a problem, because then that just makes more work for you or for whoever has to go through those alerts. It also mentions a couple other options here: file integrity checking software, antivirus, third-party monitoring services, and also like application operating systems and so forth as well for logs, which is like where a lot of that comes from. And then it just keeps on going. Network flows. So a network flow is a particular communication session occurring between hosts. Routers and other network devices can provide network flow information. So there's a lot of information that goes into that as well. Now, incident analysis. So incident detection and analysis would be easy as if every precursor indicator were guaranteed to be accurate. I kind of feel like somebody at NIST was just having a bad day and they're like, I'm just going to tell them how it is. Like, yeah. instant detection and analysis would be easy if every precursor or indicator were guaranteed to be accurate. Unfortunately, this is not the case. For an example, user-provided indicators such as a complaint of a server being unavailable are often incorrect. A really great example of this is like somebody inside of Simply Cyber was recently talking about how they had to drive 2 hours into work on like a weekend holiday or something because they were told that the servers were down and that they were unresponsive. And they tried to work with the staff that were on site already. And they were like, oh, just hit the power button, or, you know, is it running? Is it on? Like, what's going on? And they couldn't really figure it out. So they drove 2 hours into the office at an inconvenient time. And all they had to do was click the power button and turn the server back on. There was most likely a power outage or something along those lines, and the server did not auto reboot. And so they drove 2 hours just to hit a power button. That's a really good example. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I just want to double check chat real quick. Yeah, and also like Cyber Gangster Cybersecurity says, yikes, good luck. Yeah, I'm glad that's not on my end. But yeah. And then did you post what type of job you just got? So Cyber Gangster Cybersecurity is asking about PCI. Is honing in on PCI. That's like what their community focuses on is PCI. I'm keeping my distance.
I would keep more distance if I could.
Yeah, I don't want to touch PCI if I can prevent it.
Yeah, the new version 4 is a lot of fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun in a dumpster fire.
In a dumpster fire. It's a ton of fun.
Yeah, there's so much on the NIST docs.
Hey, Chris,
yeah, yeah, go for it.
You said the 2 hours, and I had to jump in because in the military, and I'm sure you guys have seen this somewhere else possibly too, but there's gripes, as they were called, gripes. So when the when the plane would land, the flight engineers would come in and they'd write up a bunch of gripes, and the pilots would too. And one of the funniest ones we ever saw, real life, was in the OFF position, the box does not seem to work. So one of our AEs wrote back, please turn the knob from the OFF position to the ON position and report back. Thank you.
That's a more polite way to say that, I suppose.
Yeah, inner office was a lot funnier, but yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just double checking chat here. How you doing, PBO?
I'm doing all right. I heard B-Dub summon me. She's like, where PBO at? I'm like, PBO, oh, he was resting. Yeah, I was handling it. But
that was like 20 minutes ago, and we were like griping on the 853.
I saw it. I was laying down. PBO's getting old, so.
The first time we said NIST, I was expecting you to pop in.
I think I was dozing off a little bit, but I heard B-Dub specifically said, where PBO at? I'm like, here I come. I'm slow. I'm old, man.
I was just trying to figure out where you were, because we're talking about NIST, and
I'm always here. I'm here in the clouds, B-Dubs. I'm using the clouds.
I know.
But just
that AWS.
Facts. The only thing in there that y'all mentioned was you get a lot more notifications of possible breaches now, because most people got SOC or got MSPs or SOC, or most people run Sentinels. There's so many SIMs that help people realize, because probably my last 4 jobs, we got notified. We were just lucky that it didn't have a breach, but they were in there moving around. The cool thing is with the SIMs now, you get more notified quickly. So what y'all going through, you can have your incidents in place so you can react quicker. I was thinking in the old days, we would have been toast. So I think with the SOCs, threat hunting, I'm not a big threat hunting guy, but with SOCs and now with MSPs with SOCs, and I think the bigger companies have Splunk, and they do an excellent job, even though Splunk is $1 gazillion. So that's my only 2 cents on that.
Here's what we didn't.
Facts.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, NIST is the bat signal for PPO. Yeah, more specifically, it's 853. So
Facts.
you mentioned 853 and PBO just emerges.
Yeah. Well, y'all was upset me with CSF. I'm like, oh, they on the little brother of NIST. I can stay in the bed and shit.
See, here's what we did wrong. We have to say NIST 3 times like Beetlejuice.
No, what's the oh my god, what's the horror film that's usually in a black thing? What is his name? I gotta look that
Bloody
up.
Mary.
No, Candyman.
Candyman. Thanks. I should be in the culture.
Yes, sir.
Candyman.
I love that one. Yep.
That's
There
part
you
of the
go.
culture of the Candyman. I'm Candyman. You say this 853 3 times, I show up.
And how's your week going, David?
Man, I just actually, I had to join late because sometimes you work late, right? And of course, it's all billable hours, which is good. But I was reviewing the High Trust, as a matter of fact, from last week, just a continuation of one of my staff, and he did a really good job at it. Unfortunately, there's a few things that you just have to look out for. So I really like QA and things because I tend to find those little needle in the haystack sometimes. But sometimes the audits with the clients are not always the most fun. But after the fact, and then looking at the evidence and saying, "Ooh, look what I found. This doesn't meet muster," or whatever the case may be. But pretty good week, just a long one. They're not always this bad. I'm not trying to scare anybody away from GRC.
Run.
Run GRC, right?
Yeah, I was wearing that
Exactly.
shirt yesterday, as a matter of fact. But yeah, that's definitely you got to find ways to cope with it and exercise and walking around and playing with the dogs, the family, etc. That definitely helps. But maybe one day I'll get some training, like PBO's NIST 853 training, and
That's funny you
then
mentioned that.
I'll move over to that.
No, you're right there. I mean, if you could do one, you do the other. You mentioned something I think is super important. A lot of people don't miss is if I'm doing NIST or IRS or those part, there's certain things that most companies gonna miss. For NIST and IRS, it's FIPS 142-encryption because everybody's too cheap to pay for it. Right? Database encryption. So there's certain things when you're looking at a audit that most companies are gonna struggle with. So it's not you trying to fail them. A lot of times I do give them compensated controls. If PBO likes you and you don't piss me off, I give you some compensating controls to help you pass. So, but and that's what we're gonna talk about in the course is certain things you could look for, especially from a federal compliance. Shout out to NIST 800-53.
How's your
Yeah, and
week,
then
Chris and B-Dubs?
It's
Sorry, guys.
awesome. Oh no, you're good. So there's a little run here I was gonna do real quick too. Some more promotion for Study GRC. Just keep in mind we're nonprofit built, community built, community driven, and so I just pulled this up on the screen. So if you guys are not subscribed already, we are 5 subscribers away from 3,000 subscribers for the community itself.
That's
So
awesome.
I'm
It's tonight.
So now I just ask you guys, if you're not subscribed, if you could please subscribe if you do want to see more of this content and you're getting value out of it and so forth. So a large portion of subscribing, liking, sharing, and so forth just comes in and getting this impact and value out to a wider audience.
Thanks.
We're not out here trying to make a buck or anything like that. So I wanted to throw that out there. And then in regards to PBO's question, I am loving the 5 days a week streaming, actually. I thought it would be more difficult, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Other than making the presentations for Wednesday, that can be a little bit hectic to an extent, just to make sure I have that prepared. So you guys aren't waiting around for 10 minutes like one of the previous weeks for me to finish the slide deck like John Strand does in the background. But yeah, I think it's really good value. One of the things I was going to mention is so we did get feedback to do like a couple news articles at the beginning of the Friday AMA, which I think is a great idea. That's GRC related. So we could start getting talking points and start dropping some value from the get-go for the AMA on Fridays. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central. And then also our hands-on on Monday and Tuesday, we'll continue to do that and build out Study GRC's program. But then also eventually we're going to start running out of ideas, or we may fill some of those days in with directed lessons where like, oh, today we're just going to review. Let's go through and do an assessment, a business impact assessment with Gemini's privacy policy, or we might do like certain days and fill that in on some of that as well for that hands-on and aspects. So
how many watch
Always
hours
looking-
you got, Chris? You got your watch hours in there?
I could double check. We
Double
are
check
still
that.
not yeah, we're still not at it just yet, but we're extremely close. So but
A quick aside to that, Chris, without giving any information. I mean, going into depth of it because it's not GRC. But did you have to hit yes to the Google thing so that you could actually see the metrics?
No, it's on YouTube.
Okay, I didn't know. Yeah, that's
It's
all.
the back office. I mean, they get super detailed. They tell you men versus women. I think it does race. It does. Everything's back there.
Oh, got another subscriber. Look, there it is.
Shout out to B-Dubs. I was a little light on the women. I'm trying to transfer, get some more women in the
Appreciate
PBO team. But yeah, we were a little. I was super old. I'm getting a little younger on mine. I had all the old people. Like 80% of my office was over 40 for a while. Shout out to Chris and study GRC. They done got me down. I think I'm in the 30s.
PBO's turning into Benjamin Button, getting younger.
Facts. My audience is getting a little.
Do you remember
younger.
that? You saw that millionaire or billionaire who was using some of his own son's blood or whatever to help him stay young. That's where I can see PBO doing right now.
No, man.
Staying young.
I'll be scaring my son. I was like, my time about up, son. You're going to have to take the baton and run. That's why sometimes I don't come up. I think I'll be stepping on B-Dubs and Chris, man. Old people got to get out the way, man. I'm almost 60, man. They running with the
torch. Your
torch.
knowledge on. We need your 853 course and all of this other stuff. That's what you need to do. Your 800 plus videos, we're going to have to in 10 years, in a year, I'm going to be taking all your videos on YouTube and just running that through AI to create a database.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
PBO, there's no ageism here.
Oh,
You ain't stepping on nobody. This is community built, community driven, right?
Yeah, but I don't know. We've been talking about that and other things where old people just don't want to get out the way sometimes. Stay a little long, but that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, sometimes, as my mom used to say, that reminds me of my mom. She taught for 45 years in Sunday school and she retired. I said, Mama, why you retired? She said, in the Bible, he said, I'm going to watch them, but you got to let them run. And said, I'm in the way. So that always made me remember that. So, but every Sunday though, she would have her Bible. When I go 4 times a year, she be teaching. She like, somebody didn't show up. I had to step in. So when B-Dub's sick, I want to be able to step in. Shout out to B-Dubs. When she gets sick, I want to be able to step in.
B-Dubs is sick. I don't know over the microphone if you can tell through my voice.
I can. That's why I came up to support you. Shout out to Chris.
I appreciate it.
Got your back. No, that's it. That's my soapbox.
Yeah, and PBO goes live every single Tuesday night, dropping his link in the chat.
Facts.
That's what I'm talking about. If I don't have to work so late, PBO, I'm gonna jump in there and I'm gonna mess with you on your show. Just give you some,
all good.
PBO's
I just want to tell people that. Oh, okay. I want to tell people that I'm an older. I just turned 45, right? But I just got into the business really about 2 years ago. I've been studying since 2000, so that's about 5 years, but it took a while. So I just want to tell anybody that's on here that's looking and, still searching for stuff, don't give up. Continue on training every day. You got to be training. You got to be practicing. And when you get better at things, you can speak better on them. And so when you get into an interview, so forth, so on, keep coming to sessions like this. Come to anybody's session that's willing to give you some free information, right? And if you find some value in it, that's all everybody ever really asks you to do on YouTube is like and subscribe. I don't know. I was trying to say LinkedIn right there, but hey, yeah, hit them up on LinkedIn too. But
come on, more the merrier. Facts.
Yeah, with all those things, it just helps. And the more people that we get in here, young, old, it doesn't matter, male, female, whatever you are, whoever you are. If you've got some information to share, just share it. I mean, whether you write or you type, well, I guess it's the same thing, write and type, right? I mean, I still write in cursive. Hold on a second. B-Dubs, do you know how to write in cursive?
I do know how to write in cursive.
He's up on B-Dubs, man. I ain't gonna let you treat me. I'm a
little bit older than I look. A little bit older than I look. And that's another thing I want to. That's another thing I want to point out too, though, is I've heard this a lot, and it's you're never too old to change your career. So, whatever age you are, if you just started yesterday trying to learn cybersecurity, you're not too old. So, no ageism here, right, PBO?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw this out there. That's probably shouldn't. So
3,000.
Oh,
Chris
I
might
gotta stop you, PBO.
Chris might have to cut me out.
Hey.
If
Oh,
you get
God.
in industry and you get stuck, I get calls from a lot of people that stressed a few things out on their resume. So when they call Uncle PBO, I used to meet with this guy every Monday. He'd be like, my boss asked me this. I'd be like, just say this, man. It's what you need to do. So there's a lot of people in the community. We don't recommend you do that, but we got your back. And if you're stuck, there's a lot of people in this community here to help you. If you ask me too many questions longer, PBO just need a little barbecue. That's all PBO need, man.
Barbecue.
He need a little barbecue. He need to be on a diet, but PBO just need a little barbecue. The community's here to support you, man. Even if you exaggerate a little bit, PBO got your back. That's all I'm gonna say. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh yeah.
Hold on, Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, wait, Chris. Those are the views of PBO and not of Simply Cyber. He's not putting anything definitely on that.
Study GRC.
That's my fault. Study GRC. PBO just got up. He's moving a little slow. Yeah, PBO not studying GRC or Simply Cyber.
I'll create one of these disclaimers for when PBO's talking. We'll make a disclaimer at the bottom that will scroll.
Go ahead.
One of those tickers there.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, so we did reach that 3,000 subscribers, so GRC Mafia. But so if you guys are inside of our Discord server and so forth, and just like PBO was saying, there's plenty of community out there. You just have to ask. There's a ton of people. That's why I always say that, like, if I don't know the answer to something, I'm sure I know somebody who does, because it's just finding somebody to help you out who's knowledgeable in that area. But like this morning, Cybersecurity, if you recall in chat and so forth, said, could you be so kind to show us a version of this on the show? And so I'm going to go ahead and drop this in chat because I'm just going to make a fool of myself. But
wait. On the show.
So look at general chat instead of Discord.
General chat.
Are you going to pull it up on your shared screen?
I could. Well, that would be difficult to do. So I could open this up though. I could do this.
There you go, Davey. Hey man,
okay.
I kind of wish I would have started way back then. That's for sure. But I graduated high school in '98, so I was a little behind you on there, Davey. But it doesn't matter what age you are. You still got something to share. So I look at my kids and they teach me stuff every day. It's kind of like when we used to help our kids, our parents with the VHS, right? The VCR. Remember that, PBO?
Oh, fine.
Yeah, I mean,
Mama,
it doesn't matter if you're 2 or 102. You got something valuable. Everybody does.
Let me
100%.
let me chime in on that Davey thing. I'll be 58 this year. I did my first computer class in high school because it was like prep ready for college in '84. I got my bachelor's in computer science in 1990. I programmed for 10 years, so shout out to Davey. I got it beat a little bit. I started out programming mainframes in COBOL. That's how old I am. So, but the cool thing though is the cool and bad thing about this is, and you mentioned it, you got to stay up on it, man. I'm studying cloud and containers and app security, purple team. You just got to keep learning, which it's kind of the bad thing sometimes because you can become obsolete. But if you get on that train, you can make 100,000 for about a decade pretty easy. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah. So that was what, 6 figures in a decade? Is that what you just said?
Yeah,
Not 90 days, right?
No, yeah. I've been making 6 figures for more than a decade. But now it took me. But you gotta remember, I started off in the 90s. I'm gonna throw this out. Now, I don't really do salary transparency. I didn't start making 100 till I was 33.
Yeah.
So it took me a while, but I think it's a little easier to make 100. But like you said, B-Dubs, you ain't gonna make it in 90, right? There's some steps you need to make. If you get on one of the hot topics, containers are super hot. Cloud is super hot. Fed space, if you can get in that Fed space and that consultant space, you can eat well in that space. I tell people that's why I do 800 PBO fat, because that Fed, your tax money's good.
All the good knowledge.
He's
like, this is how you do it.
Yeah, that tax money's good. You can eat well on tax money. That's all I'm gonna say.
You sure can.
Come on, back to Chris. I'm gonna throw it back to Chris. That's much
so-
solid transparency for me.
Yeah, all I was going to mention is, like, I've said it time and time again. I said it a moment ago, community built, community driven, so forth. This morning I dropped this GIF in our community chat inside of Discord. And then that's what Cybercycle was saying. I put it in the latest section on the community thing. And yes, this is Cybercycle's fault. But he says, show us a version of that on show.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll do my best impression. But we did hit 3K, so, you know, let's go!
That is cool.
I'll try.
Out to the 3K.
I wanted
But,
to see the video of you doing that in the snow.
Oh,
That's what he
I'll do
wanted.
that too. I could provide that. I don't have a problem.
Oh, that's. I was
Um,
getting excited. I thought you were about to show a video of you doing
I
that
wish.
in the snow.
I would be concerned if I had a video like that on ready to run, but I figured I'd throw that out there for that 3K because it just means a lot because we're just putting the community value and impact out there, and it just lets more people find us and get value out of it. And that also leads me to what I was trying to say earlier is kind of like what David was saying and also what PBO touched on is just dropping your questions in chat. Let us know what you guys want to see. We're out here for community value and everything else. So if there's something you guys are struggling on or a topic you think we should cover, or otherwise we could take that and run with it. I also wanted to mention as well that there's this event that we found the other day from HIPAA when last week when we were talking about high trust, we ended up going into HIPAA. And I discovered this so if you get a ticket before March 21st, then it's only $85. And so this is a nonprofit out of Wisconsin, and they have all kinds of free resources. They have like a HIPAA 101 and all kinds of different resources. I didn't even realize they had events.
Do they have merch yet, Chris? Did you ask them about the merch?
Facts.
I have
We
reached
just
out
want
to-
the merch.
I have reached out to them requesting merch shop and then also to see if they would be interested. So I will keep you guys up to date on how that comes about, but I've not received a response yet. Maybe if somebody in the community who's watching knows anybody over here, maybe you guys could relay something, but I did send an email out. But yeah,
Well,
so
Chris,
I'm gonna
real
drop
quick,
this in
I
chat.
got to take off, guys. I wanted to say thank you so much for your time again. We'll see you guys, and everybody stay secure, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, David.
Thanks,
Yep,
guys.
you have a good one. GRC Mafia. And then also real quick too, I wanted to pull this up. So this was from a little while ago. McCoy said, trying to plan out my March schedule for my profile / LinkedIn for entry-level audit compliance roles. I want to put together 2 to 3. Oh, we already covered that.
Yeah, we did. What are you doing?
Yeah, B-dubs.
I mean, we
It was
could
still
cover
in
it
the
again.
queue.
Because
Yeah, I was
PBO
still in the
didn't
queue,
answer.
so.
PBO didn't answer.
Did you want to answer that? So 2 to
Which
like,
one?
what are some hands-on projects that people trying to get into GRC should do for like mock projects?
I mean, I'm sure y'all went over them. And I think people have mock assessment. I really enjoy your risk register. I just, coming off your risk register, I think as you would put on my plate, threat modeling. I think people ask for threat models. You don't see that very often. Assessment and the sim we were talking about. And I'm gonna do that as part of my class. I'll probably, do some with y'all is what should you put in the sim and how to do dashboards off the sim. That'd be Splunk, Log Analytics, and Azure. AWS will be their cloud watch. So every on-prem, different version of the cloud have their version of a SIM. And that's, I think, and SIMs are needed now because he was just talking about it. That's where you put your TTPs and find out the bad guys moving in your organization. So everybody's really asking for SIMs.
Yeah, and so
Yes.
for those of you who may not know, so TTPs, I used that term earlier and didn't expand, but so that's tactics, techniques, and procedures,
You
if
see
I
that?
recall that correctly.
That's correct.
Yep. So that's like the tactics that are utilized, the techniques that are utilized, and the procedures that are utilized. So that's just a common term that people will use as TTPs.
Put the MITRE link in the chat, Chris. Like he works for me. The MITRE's the granddaddy of that.
The attack framework, or
Yeah, MITRE, MITRE.org. Because that's their whole channel. They do it. And a lot of the big SIM vendors using the TTPs from MITRE to figure out if it's Cozy
PBO.
Bear, Russia, or China. So
PBO. MITRE is way bigger than just that.
I know.
I Okay, just clarifying.
No, good
'Cause
clarification.
when you say MITRE, I'm like, but which part of MITRE?
Yeah. But if you look at each section, a lot of times the reconnaissance and all that's really rolls into the TTP, right? So, but maybe I'm shortchanging it though. But you're right. I did drill it down. But to me, all that together, you got to put all that together to come up with your TTP, right? So, and I don't even bite off MITRE very often. I just say it's in Splunk, it's in Sentinel, it's gonna do its thing, right? So I don't try to replicate all that.
And welcome to the Party Pal Cyber Gangsters, James.
What's happening, man? I was in earlier, and then PBO was dropping his knowledge, and then I totally forgot what I wanted to say, and I was like,
man, don't let PBO do that.
And I was like,
man.
It wasn't important, so then I jumped out because I was like, I'm going to keep listening. And then started talking again, and I was like, oh, I remember what it was I wanted to say. And so I think, like, one of the things I've noticed within the community is the race to get a lot of the knowledge, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not going to say anything against that because I think it's needed. But I do feel like what I've seen is neglecting those soft skills, because a lot of times in interviews, folks, for those of you listening who are trying to get into the field, one of the things that they're doing is they're really trying to see not just your technical skills. They assume you're going to have that already, but do you mesh well with the team? Do you combine well with the company culture? And sometimes you don't know what the company culture is, and you do your best and you hit or miss, right? But a lot of times I feel like what I see, because I do a lot of interview prep, is that there's that soft piece that's missing, if that makes any sense, where you are so quick to learn all the knowledge, but you haven't really sharpened your personality, if that makes sense. How you come across to someone, how you can make yourself very likable by others, right? And it's hard to put technical skills into that to be like, I want to communicate those technical skills to you. And sometimes it's like, guys, it's not even about your technical skills. If you're a good fit culturally for a group, like, they're going to pick that up from you and they're going to like you. Now, I won't say it's 100% of the time, right? But you do have to work on those skills. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think it's a level thing? Because I think when I was a junior, not in GRC specifically, I honed in my technical skills. But as I start moving to the ranks, there's technical people, shout out to those guys. On the spectrum, they couldn't even talk to customers. So I really made my money like Office Space. I went to get the requirements and explain it to the other guys. And one of my guys, I used to be a supervisor. He just told me, he goes, I hate talking to the customers. I go, that's why you have PBO. So,
and that's a good point. I think that's a good point, right? We don't always know the exact cog that they're looking for in their grand design, right? Which, if you're the technical piece, you're the technical piece. Then just own it like 100% and don't try anything else. But I always tell folks, I'm like, you should give it some, like a muscle, you should give it some workout. You should be working into trying to be personable.
Especially in GRC, because I think we interact more with the customer, right? Because you're doing assessments, compliance, and as you up there, you're giving executive reports to C-suite leadership, and they're grilling you, and you got to be able to handle that communication. Because I know some brilliant guys, they can't communicate down for the average person to pick up. I'm like, dude, I don't even know what the hell you're talking about, right? So,
well, and even if you're not customer facing, you're still going to be talking to people in GRC, whether it's your developers or executives or, all these different teams that we collaborate with and all of it.
Right.
You still need to be able to communicate with those people and build that rapport and those relationships, and soft skills is how you're going to do it.
100%.
And I think what's going to be what can help you is those soft skills don't just translate with an interview. But if you are networking and meeting folks and you're like, hey, I know this person, or that person remembers you because of how you can come across, whether it's your technical skill or your soft skills or a combination of both, your efforts, I don't know how to put this, but like, other people will also start working for you without you even knowing it. So you don't
100%.
know when someone is saying your name. For example, like, you know, PBO or myself, we may be employed and happy somewhere or something, right? But then let's say B-Dubs see someone who they know in the community and they're taken care of, and they're like, but I might know someone who's interested and mentions that. So the networking piece and that soft skills, I feel like it translates in those pieces. And again, not to say the technical piece, I'm not saying ignore or anything like that, but I do feel like in a technical field, we do tend to over, what am I trying to say?
Overanalyze, over architect, over everything.
Yeah,
really.
like we just start collecting the certifications, the knowledge, the groups, and all that stuff. But it's like we've got to be able to start also turning up the level for, you know, being able to speak to people. And I think I don't remember who said it, but yeah, when it comes to GRC, you're communicating a lot of stuff to people who are not technical and to people who are technical.
Mm-hmm.
You do have to have a certain suave to be able to communicate that to those people, to those audiences.
Yeah, I got in a drag down argument with a friend of mine one time. He said, CISSP is the best, and you need that to talk to people. I said, dude, look at what you said. I said, how many people on this planet has the CISSP? He goes, I think 1%. I'm like, how you going to use 1% as the baseline to communicate in security? He goes, damn, I never thought about that. I don't know what y'all thoughts is. I'm going to let Chris and B-Dub chime in. I'm like, only 1% of the people have a CSP. So how you going to use that as the baseline for communication?
Well, so yeah, I have a bunch to add to the conversation itself, but I just dropped 2 different Amazon links. We don't use affiliate links, at least not yet, but those are 2 really good books I recommend. And so one of those is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, which is about negotiation techniques, but you could use that in everyday life and in business. You could apply that to a lot of it. The second one I mentioned before, which is Stop Asking Questions. It sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually for you to learn and improve in interviewing, which you would be surprised because it really, if you really think about it, every interaction you have is an interview. I'm sure you guys have heard, like within the first 10 or 15 seconds, most people have already applied stereotypes to you and so forth. And there's so much that goes into communication. So especially when you start approaching it from that perspective, you could really improve not only how much you take out of that conversation, but how much you convey as well, which is why I love that Stop Asking Questions book that goes into that in depth. Those are 2 really good books. And then also I have up on the screen here that I dropped in chat a moment ago for the 100% for free course, Soft Skills for the Job Market. And correct me if I'm wrong, B-Dubs, but didn't Zach Hill work on this?
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of these videos are by Zach Hill, and they are phenomenal. I highly recommend it. Even if you already have taken courses on something similar, even if you already think you know some of these things, go take it again, because Zach just has a way of wording things that gives you confidence. So yeah, highly recommend it. And it's free.
Yeah, you have no excuse other than time for this. And it's 7 hours in total, but especially for the soft skills, it's so important. And so the rant that I wanted to go down is on this topic here. You guys are talking about improving on soft skills, improving that communication and everything else. One of the things I'm really personally proud about is my how much time people have donated to me. Like PBO has given me a lot of time, but I've talked to a lot of different practitioners and people who are getting into the industry from this industry and many other ones and so forth. I enjoy doing that and so forth. And the biggest thing that I have come across is the lack of communication, especially in this industry. What is our pitfall in GRC and in the cybersecurity industry is lack of communication. If we break down those barriers and so forth, that's what's going to further advance and give us a leading edge. Because there's too many silos. I agree with you
on that, Chris.
Yeah, that's what it really comes down to, is it's breaking down those communication barriers throughout the industry as a whole, which is not easy, and it's going to take a very long time, but that's what's going to make a more secure future. And so that's where those soft skills come in. And I've talked to a lot of people at this point, and that is, if you start talking to people and bring that up, you'll realize they're like, oh yeah, 100% that's a problem. And so that's also where all of us come in on just improving that and developing those skills and breaking those barriers as we go through.
Yeah, and it's not just cyber either. There's a lack of communication in all aspects of our lives, and we all just need to be better at communicating.
Big head shakes.
Yeah,
Big
so
head
grab the
shakes.
soft skills.
It's not just in cyber.
Yes.
Yeah, so grab the soft skills course, read some books, get out there networking, whether it's with us that you're coming up on stage,
Put
communicating
yourself
with,
out there. Yes.
Yeah, start going to local meetups, go to that HIPAA webinar and so forth, or, just start going to things, talking to people and so forth, and making those connections. And don't be afraid. Like, I talked to somebody and they're like,
it's fine to be afraid, Chris, but get through it, work through it. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to get challenged when you're not doing something comfortable. But
and what I love about like these conferences and going to places in person, within our industry, we're all a bunch of introverts. So you may be afraid to go talk to somebody, but they're afraid that you're going to come talk to them. So,
and that when that eyesight gets made for like that half a second and then it goes away real quick too. Oh, please, they didn't look at me. Don't come over here.
And it really makes me feel more comfortable to be there and talk to anybody, because I know they feel the same things that I do. And you just have a lot in common, and I love it.
And it's kind of like that adage where you're like, I don't want to go, or I don't want to do that, and all that anxiety, stress, whatever you associate with it. But then it's like, oh, but once I did, and once I got over the first 30 seconds, I enjoyed every minute of it, and it's like, I'm glad I did come. I'm glad I did participate.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
absolutely. And then as an introvert, I have to come home for a month and recover, but it's so much fun and worth it,
Yeah. I think, so kind of what you were saying, you made me think of the communication, but I linken it to gatekeeping also, right? Like, I feel like sometimes, I'm not saying everyone, but I do feel like sometimes in the community, there's this idea of I need to hold back that information which might make you successful because I'm trying to use it. And I get it. You want to have a one up somewhere, but I'm of the belief where I'm like, there's enough of the pie for everyone. We all can cheer for each other when someone else has success, even though it's not my time right now. That's okay also, right?
Absolutely.
Well,
it's hard.
And that's also where we all come in too, because we have a really good split of like half practitioners, half newcomers and so forth going into the industry here in our community alone. Same thing with like Simply Cyber and a lot of other places. It's a really good mix. And so you have that knowledge to help the next generation, but then also all of us newcomers that are coming into the industry, it's up to us to actually make that change. This isn't something that's going to happen overnight by breaking down these communication barriers. I had a recent conversation with somebody who has about 2 years as an auditor, and they're like, oh, I've never talked to the network engineers. I send them emails, but I've never gone down there and talked to them. Like, why would I do that? And I'm like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, you're sending them instructions. You're literally just sending them a checklist of a task list to do. Why aren't you going down there and saying, hey, are you guys having issues with this? Is there a better way we could do this? Hey, how is this coming along? Like, you could go down there and have those engagements with these other departments and so forth from a GRC perspective. And that's creates a much better security culture as well.
I want to highlight real quick what Mariana said in the chat, if that's okay. But down here, she said, I feel like a big part of communication is emotional intelligence. People just say communication like it's just talking or saying the right thing, but it's more about building rapport and goodwill. And I agree with you, Mariana. This is an excellent point. I think if you're unfamiliar with emotional intelligence, it's a good field to understand, to have a base level of, if you see that, because the way I kind of tell people is emotional intelligence, it's a way of understanding how I react emotionally towards things and then being cognizant of that reaction. So instead of just letting the reaction happen, being able to actively be like, I get pretty triggered when someone I feel is gatekeeping, and being able to express that without the attitude or anything else. And it could be there's a whole gamut of what that means, right? As far as emotional intelligence. But I do think that what Mariana's saying here is really a great piece of advice.
Yeah, that's my only little pushback, because I hang out with a lot of boomers. They said we're gatekeeping because we're trying to protect the industry. We got a lot of imposters. They don't know what we're doing. I go, but we train all these people before we let them touch our system, right? That's our job, right? To coach them up. But he has a baby boomer. He's, that's his thing too. He has a degree. And the thing I always get on him, and I'm going to interview him, he's one of the most intelligent people I ever met. I mean, on the top of the pyramid, I'm like, dude, 5% of the people can't do that shit. So he always go, that's a good point, right? So I think sometimes we say gatekeeping as a negative, and a lot of boomers think they're actually helping, right? So I try to get in the middle of that. So, and I interviewed.
So that's a good example of emotional intelligence, though, right there, PBO, is that you being able to take that and express what that really is instead of the connotation that maybe some of us, and I'll say me for out there, that might have that. That is my first reaction to gatekeeping is a negative one, right? And I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing, but it is just a negative one.
Oh, I think it's perceived, and when I tell him, but he's like, well, we got to make sure they're up to code. That's why we getting hacked and blah blah blah. I go, well, you older than me, man. You 67. You supposed to train the young dudes. You like some of them can't be playing train. I like that's a bad attitude. That's a bad attitude, Big Bond. But I think a lot of they really believe that the guys I work with, because they've been in the industry, and when I came in, it was more of an apprenticeship. When I started doing big consulting, especially at the state, we had a team of 5. I was the youngest one at 36. They used to call me the baby. So I mean,
you're a baby.
I'll take this.
Baby. Yeah, that's the baby, man.
Back in the day, PBO.
So you see, his name is Kim. He jumps in my chat a lot. My boss, he didn't like him, but he wasn't gonna hire him. I said he had a master's degree in cybersecurity, couldn't find a job. So I taught the old people, I'm gonna take care of him. He's under me and my boss. We would go, if he mess up, you gotta fix it. I got him, right? He got in. It was the best employee he had, and he be able to do no work. I like Kim. You got that? PBO going to lunch.
And so,
go ahead, Chris.
So we are coming. So we just hit the 2-hour mark. So we will be coming to an end here in a few minutes to respect everybody's time. But we will be live again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central. And so if you guys had any final remarks, so go ahead and drop your questions or otherwise, or your last remarks in chat there. What are you guys got planned for the weekend or otherwise? And then also, Jamie, did you have any key takeaways or like final remarks there? I was kind of cutting into the conversation there, but yeah.
Sure.
We have a few minutes.
I'm going to ask a question. I'm not going to answer it, and I don't know if anybody else, if you guys want to answer it, but here's the question I want to leave to the community is, if everyone else in the market or the field that you're wanting to get into has the same credentials, has the same certifications, has the same knowledge, and I say same, quote unquote, right, knowledge as you do, what are you doing to market yourself better than that? Outside of that, what are you doing to build up your brand? Do you even know what your brand means? I want you to think about that, this little question piece that I asked. And if you guys want to answer that for everybody as the outgoing thing or whatever, to give your spill on it, I think that's great. And if you guys out there, if you want to type it in the chat, what you feel that this question meant to you and answer it accordingly, I think it's a good thing. So what do you feel like you're bringing to the table? How are you marketing yourself better if you're in the sea with everyone else who has the same thing?
Wow, that's a really great question.
I'll go B-Dubs.
Self-reflection.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go second before Chris, so I'm going to jump in there. And he's right. So every year, even at my age, I try to learn something new to add to my skill set. So last year, I kept saying the CISSP, it didn't work, but we're going to try to get that. This year, for me, is containers. Right, everybody's putting out the Kubernetes and Docker are super hot, and every time when I interview, they're doing containers. So from a GRC perspective, how can I do an assessment on the containers? What's the check? What's the trying to make it HIPAA compliant, NIST compliant, FISMA compliant? What do I need to do to be able to do an assessment on a container? So, and once again, we talk about that continuous learning, which is not cool when you're 57, but that's a whole nother show. Chris done cut me off. We cutting off for 2 hours.
Oh, you're good.
No, I'm just bullshit, Chris. I'm giving you a hard time.
PBO,
But no.
PBO will go on for another 2 hours.
No.
I feel your PBO, though. I feel you.
No. And shout out to Cyber Gangster. I'll be in his Discord. So if he ever needs me, they know. Just hit me with an @ sign. PBO code old. He might not be able to find the exact statement, though. You might have to help people. Now, the new thing for me is containers. Trying to separate myself apart. Because like you said, even when you're interviewing, there's a lot of senior people out there. So what makes you different? What makes you collaborative? And I think the thing you talked about too is my communication skills with different level of the C-suite. And just real quick, the higher I go up, the less technical I start talking about. I start talking about ROI, return on investment, how quick it's going to take, what's our POEM. They don't give a shit about an Oracle database in the C-suite. I had a CEO tell me that one time. I don't give a shit about the Oracle database. What is it going to stop us working, and how long you gonna take, and how much it's gonna cost PBO? Okay. So so this be kind of my thing. So I'm gonna give it to B-Dub so we can wrap it on up. Shout out to B-Dub.
Real quick, John does say that he wants 2 hours of PBO. There are literally hundreds of videos, over 800 videos on PBO's channel already. Check out the compliance playlist. The link's in the chat there. But yeah, there's plenty of recorded, and then he also goes live every Tuesday. Here's a little fun fact. If you go up on stage and keep him talking, he will go over 2 hours. If you don't go up on stage, then it may only be an hour. It's easy to keep him talking.
Oh, I can go all day, but I don't know. I'm getting old. PBO be getting tired some days. Go ahead, B-Dubs. Shout out to B-Dubs.
Shout out to me. That's what PBO says, right? Yeah. So for me, I have a different way of thinking about things and seeing things. I have a whole website that kind of showcases that. It makes me different. I've kind of owned it since I was a kid, and I've now found a way to channel that and be able to share, my way of thinking with the community to help other people. Yeah, BrittWhite.io. That's how I'm
self-promotions.
Yeah, that's how I mean, he put the question out there. So
yes, put it out there.
That's how I'm standing out and being different. But also, I'm going to, whether it's conferences or local meetups, and getting to know people and listening to them, not taking over conversations, and
So anyways, we're now coming to an end here, and
being when I see a way that I can help other people, I'm trying to do those things. I'm starting a CISSP study group, PBO. So, you're going to be getting that this year too.
I saw that. Ooh, it's a whole nother conversation.
You have no excuses now. Yeah, twice a week, 2 hours a week for 14 weeks. You got this, PBO.
I think she's putting peer pressure on an old guy, but I'm going to throw it back to B-Dubs. We'll have the conversation offline.
Look, I'm leading it. I'm leading it. So all you have to do is show up.
It's too much peer pressure for an old guy. But we'll talk about that later.
You got to show up.
And I'm going to throw this in there with quick shout out to Space Taco. I'm trying to stay on my learning sphere. I think B-Dub's taking me out of my learning sphere. What did she call that? Learning something she was talking about. My learning sphere. I'm feeling pressure.
Learning sphere.
Yeah, what's she talking about? Your learning style. She was talking about learning style.
Yeah, learning style.
Yeah, B-Dub's taking me out of my learning style.
Well, gotta get out of the box sometimes, PBO.
I stay in my lane at my age, but that's a separate conversation. I stay in my lane.
But yeah, so definitely check out the CISSP study group that's coming up. We're going to be publishing out some of that social media and notices this weekend for more details on that to come. That will be the first week of March coming up, so it's coming up rapidly. You can grab the role inside of our Discord server. So if you join our Discord, you can go at the very top. We have a section there that says info and links, and you'll see a big green button there that says enable or disable for the CISSP study group. That will notify you about updates regarding that, and then also like when we go live for that as well. Thank you all for joining us today. We're at 2 hours and 8 minutes as of right now, and we covered a bunch of awesome topics. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central, we do have our AMA, which I want to go ahead and start that off with going into that CCM that we did not get a chance to go to. So I'm going to open up tomorrow with that topic, and we'll dig into that a little bit. But it's really open for anything socializing and so forth as well, in a more casual format even. Next week, we do have our job readiness and group resume review. So if you would like your resume to be reviewed, I highly recommend you to submit a redacted version of it. Right. And so on our website, we do have like a contact form. And so I'm going to drop this in chat. But you can go to this address here. We set up this automation here just to make it easier for us. You could select submit your resume, and then it'll go through. It will send your resume over to Virus Total as well, which is why we're only accepting it through this. I'm tired of spinning up VMs and everything else to download suspicious stuff from people on the internet. And then you can optionally put your information in there. So you could submit your resume 100% anonymous. As long as it's redacted, we will go through and air that next week. And that's the last Thursday of every single month. But yeah, again, thank you for everybody joining in. This is all community built, community driven. Thank you to everybody coming up on stage 2. Great questions today. And you guys have a great rest of the week. I'll see you guys tomorrow and in the Discord. GRC
GRC
Mafia.
Mafia.
If you guys ever have any additional questions or otherwise, the Discord is a great place to go,
Facts.
especially